How to build a personal brand on social media 2021 strategy. I'm Ruth Kudzi, the founder of Ruth Kudzi Coaching. I transformed my life and my business, and I'm passionate about helping others do the same. We hear this word personal brand. The personal brand coaches and strategists and mentors and you name it. But what does it actually mean? The reason that many solopreneurs and more established businesses are building personal brands is because people connect with you not on what you sell, but also on who they believe that you are. And I would say that a personal brand really comes from that self-awareness. Who are you? What are your values? What do you stand for? So really starting to understand that for your business, what are the values? What are the things that you hold to be really true? What are the things that are really important as a business? I run a training business and a coaching business. So obviously growth and development is at the core of what we do. But we do work as a business on looking at, okay, what are our values? And how are we making sure that we're acting in accordance with those values? Because if you really know what your values are, it's easy to build a personal brand. And I would say that often your business values may mirror your personal values. They don't need to be the same. One of my personal values is family. That isn't a business value, but it's a personal value. And my business actually helps me with that value. But you can see that there can be a divide. But I think there also needs to be coherence and congruence between your business values and your personal values. Because if you're doing something that doesn't match with you, it's going to be much more difficult to build a brand. We know that authentic or hashtag authentic is kind of the buzzword, or it was the buzzword last year. Actually, when we're thinking about this, authenticity, what authenticity also means showing up as who you are. And so understanding the values that drive you, the values that are important. And if those are really your values, not just values that you think are good to have, then obviously you can build a brand around them because your values impact how you behave, how you think, what you say. So that's why it's really important to understand yourself, because you're at the heart of that. You may also want to think about, okay, how do these values impact how I run my business and how they impact my clients? That's important too. And do they understand? So let's talk about them. Let's demonstrate them. Let's act in a way that is consistent. A lot of people, when they talk to me about building personal brand, they get into this state where they're like, well, what I see, Ruth, is like, I'm seeing myself building this brand, but what I worry about is, what if I say something over here and that I think something, and then what if I get some more information and I change how I think? And actually, that doesn't matter as long as you're consistent with your values. So we may all change and evolve. We know that when we learn new information, and I say this the whole time, I always act with the information that I have in that moment. Now, that's how we make decisions. But there may be some information that comes to light in the future that would change that decision. And it may be that you change your opinion based on that new information. Again, Adam Grant talks about this in Think Again. I love that book. But we may change what we think based on new information. We can't predict that. Scientists do that the whole time, don't they? This was a theory. Oh, actually, we've got some new information, and that theory isn't right. It's now we're looking at this. But as long as you're consistent with your values, it doesn't matter if you change what you think. Actually, for me, it's much more authentic to change what you think based on new information. I talk about this quite a bit because I have this kind of internal battle where when I started my business, we were told to really talk about money. So I talked about it, and then I wasn't sure about it, and then I was like, and then sometimes I talk, and now I'm like, okay, that's a small part of building a successful business, but it's something that people really want to talk about. So I talk about it, but I talk about it in a particular context now. Now, maybe I didn't do that 3 years ago, but But actually I've learned and evolved, and I've started to get surer of my opinion, and I've done things and I've kind of reflected on them, and I thought, okay, that isn't how I want to be. That isn't congruent with me. And this is normal evolution. So you don't need to keep saying the same thing, but it needs to be from that values base. So remember the iceberg, at the top is our behavior. So that's what people observe. But actually, if you're thinking about underneath, if you have strong foundations, then people understand that maybe the way that you think and therefore the way that you behave may change. And you can explain that to people. You can say, well, I used to think this, and then through this experience, it challenged the way I think, and now I think this. And if you bring people into your story and your thought process, it helps them to trust you. It helps them to realize that you too are a person and you are not afraid of getting things wrong. And actually, part of being a personal brand is often about saying, I'm not perfect, I'm a person, and every person has shadow and light. And yes, these are my values. And yes, I hold it really important to be honest and transparent, which means that sometimes I might get things wrong. Most people who aren't building a personal brand, who aren't showing the whole of themselves, are worried of the judgment of their shadow. They think that people expect them to be perfect. They think that if they make a decision or say something, that they need to hold that true forever. And what I'm saying to you today is that actually accepting that where you are today is where you are today is really the cornerstone of building this. And understanding that this can change and evolve, and actually your customers will come on that journey with you. They will want to see how your thinking's changed. They will want to understand if there are differences. So building a personal brand, understand your values, understand what is important to you. Communicate with your audience. Show up, be honest, be vulnerable, and do that within boundaries. There are many things, and I sat down and I did this when I started my business, and I revisit this. What will I not talk about? What will I not share? And at the beginning, I've talked about evolution. I did share pictures of my children's faces on social media, but actually, as my business has grown, I am not happy doing that. And so I don't show pictures of my children's faces. That is like a hard line for me. The only way that I would is if it was on story, so it disappears. So hard line, not showing pictures of children's faces. Hard line, not talking about people who are in my family or my close friends and what's going on for them, because that is nobody else's business. So those are my hard lines. Like, I am not going to talk about things that are private. I'll talk about things that are private to me if they are private to me and they don't impact other people. So I'm not going to talk about other things because it's not my story. And this is the thing, being a personal brand. You know, I have people who say, oh, like this really traumatic thing happened to me. Do I need to share it? Or am I being inauthentic not sharing it? No, that's not being inauthentic. You're not pretending it didn't happen. You're just not telling people that it did. And depending on your personality and who you are, and also depending on where you are with your journey of acceptance and healing, you may choose to or not to share that. So you don't need to share everything. You don't need everybody to know the ins and outs of everything that is happening with you to build a personal brand. You need people to understand who you are, what you stand for, what's important for you. You need to let people in so they understand a little bit about how you think, why you're doing this. Simon Sinek, start with why. And that's where it really goes. And then it's about being consistent, choosing the social platforms that work for you. You don't need to be omnipresent. You don't need to be everywhere. You're not starting out as Gary Vee. He's got a massive team. I've got a team. So yes, I've got YouTube, podcasts, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, but that isn't all me. And this is where you have to understand at the beginning, if it's you and it's only you, focus. Okay, where are my audience? Where do I enjoy? Maybe I'm going to start on Instagram. Maybe I'm going to start on LinkedIn. Maybe I'm going to start on Facebook. And I'm going to show up being really clear about my values, my story, why I'm here. And I'm going to talk about the things that are important to me. And I'm going to do that in a boundaried way. So I'm not going to have to share everything. I'm not going to share my soul, but I'm going to share enough so people get to know me. And I'm not going to be afraid of sharing a bit of my shadow as well as my light, because I know that when I do that, people are going to actually identify with me. And I hear some people saying, oh, because, personal brands, like they're inauthentic. Only if you choose them to be. You are the person who chooses what you share. But if you really want to build something good, it's about accepting who you are. The more that you accept who you are, the more you're able to build a stronger brand, because it's really true to you. So my advice is to start. Start, and don't be afraid to get it wrong, because this is about you, your journey, what is important to you, and it will be an evolution. Mark 10 is not going to be the same as Mark 1. So does everybody in business need to have a personal brand? Well, I think if you're selling services, so if you're a coach or a personal trainer or a photographer, if you're selling a service, if you can create a brand and be known for something, then that is attractive to customers. It's a great marketing tool. So I believe that service-based entrepreneurs, if they can build that brand, then that is brilliant for them, because we know that products have, a product will have a brand. Now, does everyone need to have a personal brand? Well, if we look at, arguably the two most successful people in the world, Elon Musk has a personal brand. We know what he stands for. He's very visible. He's very unique. Very unique. But Jeff Bezos, he doesn't really have a personal brand. Amazon are the personification of the brand. And Amazon really means convenience, doesn't it? The reason that we all love Amazon, and the reason that cardboard during the pandemic became probably as valuable as gold, was because it's convenient. That's why people use it. It's easy and simple to use. And everything is on Amazon. But that doesn't relate to Jeff. So Jeff isn't part of that brand because he's created a really strong business brand. Whereas Elon Musk is part of all of his brands. So I think the thing here that we need to realize is, if we're an individual, then we effectively are the face of a business. If we're creating a business that is separate to us, then that may have a slightly different branding. And interestingly, you are going to see this for me. So I am the brand in terms of my coaching business. Ruth Kudzi Coaching, it's me. Our second business, which when you're watching this, you'll have seen the brand evolution, Optimus Coach Academy, that brand is separate to me. So that brand is not a personal brand. That is a business brand. So it's slightly different. And that's about the brand values and brand story, which again connect to my brand values and story. But that brand is not just me. So does that, it's really here, is this brand you, or is this brand bigger? If it's a business, it may be that you create a brand for that business that is not based on you. But if it's a personal brand, if it's only you, you're a solopreneur, or you're a small team, then it's much more likely to be that personal brand. Our next video is up here. Remember to subscribe, ring that bell, and give me a like.